Kia ora koutou, hoki mai ki tēnei hui o tātou for our draft gravel management strategy feedback sessions. So we're going to kick into our next submitter, presenter, Manaia. Kia ora Manaia, nei rātimi ki a koe ho, from Mahanui Kurataio, and Kelly. Kia ora Kelly, come up to the table. Thanks for being here. And the way we do it is we've got about 15 minutes, and if you want us to ask some questions, leave us some time and we'll have some time to do that. So kia ora kōrua, over to you. Thank you for being here.
Kia ora mai tātou katoa, councillors, staff of Environment Canterbury, thank you for our time to talk to you and give feedback on the gravel management strategy. If I may, councillors, we have a written statement that we'd love to share with you. The first part of the written statement, I might just leave it for you to read in your own time, but it's just acknowledging our relationship through Te Tiriti of Waitangi and the Ngāi Tahu settlement deed. But there are 4 key points that I'd like to raise that will be in this paper, and we'll pass them out shortly. As you're all aware, my mother was a councillor here and a commissioner, and I was very fortunate enough to be a staff member here. And at that time, I remember watching Dame Margaret Baisley and Sir Mark and some of the leaders at that time pretty much said, and I know you've heard it all before, but I'm just, if you just indulge me for a moment, that the Crown Council, it's going nowhere. You're going nowhere. And the 10 Papatipurunanga in the Environment Canterbury area are going nowhere either, and we must work together. And I just thought that was really poignant. And the reason why I want to acknowledge it is because of the staff at Environment Canterbury. The way they've been working with us on this has been exceptional. So I just want to congratulate them on the work in doing this together, and thank you. With the points, so with the strategy, there are some things that we have to talk about and make sure it's in the strategy, and they're those 4 points I'd like to talk today. In the strategy, we were lucky enough to receive a copy that was being worked on and presented, and when we got a Word document, we've inputted in what we would like to see in, just some more integration. So that copy's there for you as well, if you may. And the first part out of the 4 I'd like to share is that there needs to be a mana whenua lens and values weaved into the whole strategy. I was with our whānau represent our business that we get feedback. That was very clear from them. Must be weaved right in through. We provided input into part 1 and part 2, but we're unsure whether this has or will be included in the gravel management strategy, but we believe it should be there. And that's talking about mana whenua. So hopefully that's in the document you may have, or that can be released when completed. Number 2, mana whenua values should be incorporated within all Part 3 outcomes. And there needs to be more integration across the objectives. It's there, but it still needs to have more input. And this actually leads into Part 3, with that integration part. So most importantly, there are no provisions for consultation with mana whenua and the decision-making provisions in Part 4. So there's no provisions there. So going back to Part 3, how do you provide for the outcomes for mana whenua in Part 3 and integration if there's no decision-making provisions in Part 4? So I just really wanted to make that nice and clear for our councillors. Here's the last part. To help us with putting input into the gravel management strategy, we created a mana whenua gravel management position statement. And we have provided a position statement on behalf of Te Ngāi Huriri-Runanga and Te Taumutu-Runanga. And it was from these position statements that gave us the content to help us drive the input that went into the gravel management strategy for feedback when we're working with Environment Canterbury. So on that note, that's our points there today. And also I want to apologise. There is myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Manaia Cunningham. I am the General Manager at Mahanui Kurataio, and beside me is one of our leaders there, the company, Kelly Sonics, who was here supporting me especially around any technical questions, and she's been fully involved with this process as well. So kia ora mai tātou. Thank you.
Tēnā koe manaia, tēnā koe Kelly, tēnā kōrua. Any questions from councillors at the moment? No? Nook, you got one?
I've got a kind of a question. It's more of an observation. E mihi atu, kia kōrua, kia koe manaia. Look, I think one thing that we've been really cognizant of, and particularly right across our documents from ECAN, is about the way that we actually assimilate and incorporate mana whenua values. And you're absolutely right, because even this morning in a previous submission, there was a comment from a tangata tiriti submitter around we haven't got the consistency of Waitaha's in there. Sometimes it's Canterbury, Waitaha and all that. So that's another kind of issue across this document. I think the other part of it, though, Manaia, is that, and I know how this works because sometimes you are possibly the last to know, that there are some runanga that actually have agreed on a way forward, with this gravel management strategy. But that means that there's no kotahitanga, that we're seeing. And so that invariably actually exposes us as Ngāi Tahu councillors. It exposes Mahanui Kuratāo. And so without that continuity, we kind of get picked off. And so I know Councillor McKenzie is going to come in shortly and talk about that actual agreement. But have you heard about this this sort of cooperation amongst some runanga actually around this gravel management strategy?
I'll just push your button, Kelly, if you...
Is this an agreement with ECAN?
I'll let Councillor McKenzie actually elaborate on what I'm getting at.
So I guess the backstory is that we our Rivers team sort of hit a, and Lee, you can tell me when I start talking rubbish. But the backstory is that we sort of hit an impasse between talking to people separately, and there didn't seem to be much resolution of that. So we organised a series of meetings, which included meeting with all the, well, we tried to meet with all the runanga, but not the runanga I met from the Banksmill Incident, but we met with Kaikoura, Tuahiwi, Taumutu, and the southern runanga in separate meetings. Very good hui, and that was from a mana whenua perspective. Jan Cranmore had a fair bit to do with the leadership involved with that, and from that we got a clear position of the things that runanga wanted, and we've incorporated that into the draft document. We then had a couple of hui with the commercial operators separately, though some Jan was there, and I think there were other mana whenua representatives who came to those meetings, but maybe didn't say much. So this is the draft document is as a result of all those huis. And in terms of the decision making, which you raised, Manaia, in the fourth part, the reflections were that the runanga struggled to have the resources to address every single resource consent and authorization. Thank you, Craig. And there is and so in terms of the authorizations, the concept was for our Rivers team to work with the runanga going forward, and DOC and LINZ and those sorts of organisations, to get agreement on an overarching plan where authorisations should be able to be given out because they tick all the boxes. They tick cultural values, mana whenua values. They tick the code of practice, which we've revised again with input from Runanga, and so that everybody's happy. And you'd need a level of trust that once we've got agreement on where authorisations can be granted, and the level of gravel that can be taken out, and that they will be held to the accountability of the code of practice, that then those entities, DOC, LINZ, Runanga, don't need to be involved on every individual authorisation. And the consents, except for the Waimakariri, because that I think requires consents under its own act, consents will tend to be where the abstractors are trying to do something that doesn't fit within the concepts of the authorisations, in which case that'll be an open process and everyone will be involved in those individual consent applications. So it's trying to streamline from not only the abstractor's perspective but also the administration from a Runanga or mana whenua perspective, so that we can streamline where everybody's doing everything we want them to do, mainly for flood protection, that there's a streamlined process. Does that make sense? And that's sort of the basis of what we're trying to do here, and that where we thought we had the majority of Runanga engagement agreed to that.
Yeah, where you go, Kelly?
I have been involved with this gravel management strategy with Taumotu Runanga and Ngāi working with their kaitiaki, and I can confirm that no such agreement has been met. It may have seemed like a simplistic way to overview it, but certainly there has been no agreement that of any sort. We have attended huis, but there's been no input from those huis. Any input has come from our position statement and what we have given here.
Could you give us a bit more detail about, just elaborate about the decision-making sort of processes that you might like to see?
I guess that there should be, certainly should be some provision in here that mana whenua are consulted for a resource consent at the minimum. We should be at least notified of authorisations.
Yep.
And be able to view them at any time. So if we see somebody in a river, we should be able to go to some database and know that they have got an authorisation.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else you want to add on that stuff? No? Do I have another question? Yeah, Graham?
There's a strong linkage between this strategy and our Braided River revival strategy, and the two are linked. And I'm thinking here of the natural character values of the river. You mentioned Kutakitai within some of the amendments you made, I think, and things. But in terms of outcomes, do you think parts of the rivers are identified as outstanding natural landscapes? Do you think that there's enough commentary in here about really special parts of our rivers that are kind of not available for extraction? Is there any commentary that we?
There possibly is, but we just haven't delved that deep into it. We have, like Councillor McKenzie said, there has been a number of huis where the people that we have worked with have felt like we're going around and round in circles. This is where it's landed. But certainly there are areas that we would like to have excluded due to natural landscape matters. We would hope to be able to cover that in resource consent applications.
what and the appropriateness of identifying things like that, either in the Braided River Revival strategy or a bit of a link between the two.
As I understood it, the way Councillor Mackenzie explained it, that's sort of that part of that pre-assessment and planning process that would be done before authorisations are given that general approval. So that's the involvement where we'd delve into that with Papatipi Runanga, Docklands. Is that something that you're happy with?
In terms of the authorisations, yes.
Yeah. Yep. And in terms of resource consents, I think that sits a little bit outside of the gravel management strategy because that's managed by just a normal consenting process.
The RMA.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just quick supplementary. We also had a submitter this morning, part of the Ashley Rakahuri River Care Group, and there's concern from them about, a bit like you, a notification or at least liaison with groups like that. Do you think it would be valuable for river care groups like Ashley Rakahuri and Ngāi Tahu Runanga to be able to provide some commentary at that pre-stage?
Are we talking about authorisations now?
Yeah, as part of the gravel management strategy.
As part of the gravel management strategy, yeah. Yeah, definitely. We would all want to have some input at the preliminary stage.
We're out of time, but do you got one more question?
Yeah, again, not so much a question, but a comment. Is that I really feel for the fact is that Mahanui Kurutaio here, but you know there should be more kotahi taka going on with AES Ōkaha, you know, to actually give a whole collective of feedback actually to this strategy. And that's the inherent problem. I'm glad we're having a wānanga tomorrow actually to talk about Tui Agreement and to talk about exactly that kotahi taka actually that needs to take place. Because when I look at the submission from Mahanui Kurutaio, it hits on all the things actually that there should be a collective submission or they should be coming here because that is actually exactly what this is about. So kia ora to you. Thank you for coming in and doing this.
And kia ora, Manaia and Kelly again. Thank you so much for your submission and look forward to our staff looking at that and when it comes back to us. So kia ora. Thank you.
Kia ora, Council. Thank you.
So next up, Ashley, you're there. Thank you so much for coming from Mackenzie. Appreciate that you're here in person. And we'll give you 15 minutes. And if you leave us some time, we can ask some questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Kia ora, my name's Ashley McLaughlin. I'm the Manager for Engineering at Mackenzie District Council. What that means is I'm responsible for managing the roading and three water assets. Today I'm speaking mostly around the roading assets. And I'd like to offer the opportunity for you to share thoughts and challenges on some of the issues we have, like the up on the screen there, managing our asset, and speaking to someone directly and to share what the benefits of what has been proposed is for local government. I just want to express how significant those benefits could be. So what we would see in our district would be less quarrying of land, and so the gravel would be coming out of replenishable sources. We'd see thousands of kilometres of less trucking every year. That trucking would be less damage to our roading networks. With the reduced quarrying and the less trucking, you'd get less silicosis in the environment. Our cost savings would be reduced from transport. We'd have better resilience of assets like that one and roading networks that run alongside rivers. That would mean we wouldn't have to retreat. We wouldn't have to go and reline roads and lift bridges and spend a lot of money adapting our networks to to rising riverbeds. And mostly that's not because we couldn't do it now, that's because of the timeliness of it. So if you have a weather event, the riverbed can fill rather quickly. It takes over a year to get a consent to go and bring that riverbed back down again, in which time you can have more events. And every time you go through that process, it's a really expensive process to try and you're weighing up, as an asset manager, you're weighing up the benefits of applying for a consent or upgrading your asset, whereas the path that's proposed would remove that cost altogether. So a lot of benefit, a lot of ratepayer cost savings for your ratepayers as well. I won't ignore the environmental impact. We'll have to do it carefully. There's the sensitive environments. There's seasons and times and parts of rivers that shouldn't be touched. We recognise that. Work really well with the river management team here at ECAN. And I'd encourage a approved contractors list for the whole of Canterbury. So if you do see someone in the river, there's a public list you can check, and if they're approved, they could be there, and it'd be very simple for the public to have confidence that nothing untoward's happening. And that's all I have to say. I'm just repeating what I've already put in my submission, but I'd love to offer the opportunity for you, if you wish to clarify anything there, to those benefits to ratepayers.
Cool, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, I'll go with Grant, and then I've got Claire and Dion to start with. There you go, Councillor Edge.
So in a situation like this, and if say it's after an event, it might have been, the authorisation process is a lot a faster process where there are some clearly defined goals about how you extract that, repair it, and the environmental stuff on that. So what you're seeing there is the gravel behind the bridge, which is built up. You're suggesting that if those sorts of things can be used as a resource, rather than taking it out in some other part of the river where it's not impacting on this infrastructure.
Yeah, so in this situation, obviously the infrastructure is at risk. We wouldn't want to take if we take the gravel out and crush it, we've got nowhere to put it currently, whereas the proposal gives us that opportunity to put it somewhere. And so, as far as timeliness goes, we can get in there earlier, and we don't have to try and create, if you have to go find somewhere to put it, so you have to pick it up, take it way down the road to crush it, and then bring it all the way back to spread it back on the road in the future, Really, if you can see up behind that bridge, a bulldozer does the gravel out either side, but the riverbeds still just continue to fill up, and that gravel's not going anywhere, it's just bulldozed up the sides. So sorry, I digressed.
Claire?
Well, mine's also on the picture that you've put there, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as a TA and that being your assets, you can actually get in and work around that bridge and shift gravel without any authorisation or resource consent? Just to protect the asset, notwithstanding taking gravel out, because I understand that you would need to do that as well.
No. So we're I think we're 13 months into our global consent to give us the ability to do that, but we don't have that consent yet.
Dion? No. Ian, and then I might as well go to you, and then I'll come back to you, Ian. Is that all right? There you go.
Kia ora, Ashley. Thanks for your submission. I'm kind of looking at that, and I've seen a number of those photographs. And basically, in some ways, why mana whenua are quite strong about, taking things out, changing things. And I'm just wondering, you're always going to have that problem, because that's just showing you that that's the way the river is, and so that's where the gravel's going to be. And you just said that you haven't got any, you can take it out, but where you're going to put it and all of that. What about just raising the bridge?
So what's happened, this is a good example. So what's happened is gravel used to be extracted from that river. And because the riverbed level at that time was lower, that's the level the bridge was designed to be at. But since the gravel extraction is a lot harder now, the riverbed's come back up to its natural level, which is quite correct. Now, bridges are not cheap. And so to lift those bridges and to do all of those bridges in the district is quite an expensive exercise. What's proposed is a really good use of the gravel in that part of the river, and that it would go on the road directly around that area rather than in that location. It's 53 kilometres to that bridge, as that's how far the gravel's been carted. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm not talking about every bridge, but there must be some kind of way that we can, because it's always going to be the problem. Okay, so it's just I just wondered that. You're friends with Nicola Willis. Why don't? Yeah, I'm just saying is that when I've just heard yesterday or this week about the cost of regulation here in this council and across not a lot of the councils. The cost is humongous. And so, anyway, that could be part of the same thing. But anyway, thanks a lot. It was just, I know it's way out of the ballpark, but I think we need to think like that sometime. Kia ora.
I think the strategic approach that Ian's mentioned about doing the overarching plans, so where and maybe that could be part of the conversations where assets have got a life, maybe they're at the end of their life, that could be considered at that time. So, Ian, hand over.
And I was just going to say the wicked problem down in your part of the world is that most of those rivers, when we do the gravel availability assessment, have no available gravel to be taken out, despite the fact you've got what I would classify as a sinking bridge rather than a climbing river. But and so there is a wicked problem here, and maybe we need to reflect on whether there are some solutions here. But going back to your point, Grant, there would be no authorisations granted on these rivers in South Canterbury because as far as I can remember, I don't think there's very many South Canterbury rivers where there's much shingle available. But I may have that slightly wrong, but that's my understanding of it. So this is sorted by consent, in which case it's a difficult problem. It's a expensive and slow process. So we need to think about whether there's a solution about that.
Is it the airport?
Yeah, I'm quite interested. Where is that? Can you?
Lochinbar Road.
What river? No, sorry.
The dry stream.
Yeah. So, Ian. Yeah. Ian, I'm interested in that gravel assessment, availability assessment. So you're saying there wouldn't be, like in this river here, this dry stream.
We've got the expert sitting in the corner here, but in most the issue in South Canterbury in most rivers, there's not much shingle available for abstraction because they measure with LiDAR, you measure the gravel accumulation, the gravel loss, and then what we consider to be the appropriate level. And you touched on it. You see, so when they built the bridge, they were probably over abstracting shingle, which was then going down too deep and creating environmental issues. Now the river is built back up to perhaps its natural levels, but the bridges are too low, and so that's a change of management from us, trying to reflect a more natural approach to the river, but it's creating problems in places. And so there's quite a lot of angst with the South Canterbury contractors and district councils because of that change of approach. But it's an approach we're doing across the whole of the region. Yeah. And when you look at the pros and cons of it, it looks like the right approach. But whether we can find some nuances as to how to deal with these issues.
Yeah. And Ashley, just to confirm, so you're pretty supportive of the gravel management strategy, yeah?
Yes, in that it supports local government, more involvement from local government, yes.
Cool, thank you. And hopefully we can solve some of the issues that you're bringing to us. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Ashley, and appreciate you being here again and travelling up to see us. Thank you. And great use of an image, for sure. Thank you. I think we're on to our last submitter, and I think we've got Hamish Riak there in the office in Ashburton, Hakatere. And I know we saw you. Oh, and Neil. Kia ora koroa. Didn't see Neil before. And I know we spoke to you yesterday as well, Hamish. So welcome back. Kia ora, Neil. Great to have you here. I'll hand over to you. 15 minutes. If you leave some time for questions within that, we can have a little discussion. So kia ora. Hand over to you.
Kia ora, yeah. Great. Chair, Craig, and councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the Ashburton District Council's submission.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the framework. We like to balance the environment, cultural, social and economic values. Council supports a holistic whole of the river approach and consider that the balance between the values could be further developed. Particularly note that the social and economic value of the river gravel extraction is not featured as prominently in this strategy as it was in the 2012 strategy. And the 2012 strategy specifically mentioned that taking a flood management first approach, referenced the consideration of economic growth and the partnerships with the gravel extraction industry. And the change that we request is we believe continued involvement of the gravel industry to help manage and protect river health is dependent on the economic viability of the activity. So we suggest that considering the economic and social value is critically important in making river gravel management extraction decisions and ultimately maintaining and enhancing river health in our district. Point number 2, river resilience with flood management. Council's view is our district's economic and social wellbeing is closely linked to the resilience of our rivers. The Ashburton Bridge is critical infrastructure that connects regions within the South Island and is required to support economic activity. The 2021 flooding event was a reminder of how susceptible infrastructure in our district is to fluvial flooding. So the change that we're requesting is emphasise the need to prioritise river resilience and flood protection in the decision-making process. The strategy should place stronger emphasis on improving resilience around critical lifeline infrastructure in the region. Point number 3 is on community demand, the Ashburton Second Bridge. Our view is we welcome ECAN's intention to engage with territorial authorities to better understand the locations of scheduled roading and development projects that will generate significant demand for gravel. Believe the construction of the second bridge in Ashburton will be a project that will generate significant demand for use of gravel. And the communication approach we suggest there is a benefit in engaging with ADC and NZTA, Waka Kotahi, to ensure any river gravel extraction that might be required for this project is carried out in a way that supports the strategy objectives while being mutually beneficial for gravel extractors and project owners. And it's important for our second Ashburton Bridge to start that work now, have the hui now on gravel extraction where it should come from. We refer to the north branch of the Hakatere River being our preferred location for extraction. Why? This area of the river continues to have high deposition rates, making it a high-risk area for flooding. Extracting from this area helps achieve strategy outcomes as it will have a high degree of impact on river resilience and flood management. It's economically valuable to gravel extractors and project owners given the large face size of gravel and its proximity to the project. It will help protect the natural character of the river by extracting only gravel that has been deposited without disturbing the natural beds of the river. Point 4, the Braided River Revival Whakahamu Manu Ngā Awa a Pakihi 100-year strategy. We note that the River Gravel Management Strategy sits under the draft Braided River Revival 100-year strategy. We acknowledge that this strategy signals a shift from river management focused solely on flood protection to a more holistic whole-of-river approach. Given it has a high degree of influence over the gravel extraction strategy, we're concerned that this strategy was only made available after consultation had opened. So the question we have, given the clear significance the revival strategy has to our district, we would like to understand if it's ECAN's intention to seek feedback on that strategy. So we welcome the opportunity to work in partnership with ECAN, Mana Whenua and other agencies to ensure the health and wellbeing of our rivers, residents and infrastructure continue to be protected. We thank ECAN for the opportunity to speak to our submission. Ngā mihi nui. Thank you.
Kia ora, Neil. Tēnā koe. Tēnā koroa. Questions from councillors on Ashburton District Council submission? Yep, Peter. Councillor Scott.
Yeah, hi Neil. Good to see you in person, almost in person. Good to see the Crusaders in the background there too, actually, Hamish. So my question is this, and it comes out of complete ignorance, which you'll appreciate. Given that this is a Wakakatahi project, does a procurement of materials for that project sit within a special designation, or do you have to go through this consenting process?
Unsure. It is a Wakatahi NZATA project, but that project is in partnership with us, with Ashburton District Council. You may understand that the government is building the bridge and we're building the road connecting, but we've made it one project for consenting, design and tendering and the project management of it. We are working in partnership with NZTA, so not sure what consenting will be required or to extract the gravel, but we'd like to see the process be as simple as possible to enable the gravel to be used for this project, and it will use a lot of gravel.
Thanks for that. I would have thought that government projects, before they, if they're run by the government, NZTA, and even in partnership with yourselves, would have had provision for the provision of the raw materials that come in there, and wouldn't have left the consent process around that hanging. So, I mean, it's just a speculative question, really, Neil, rather than I don't want a specific answer to that.
Hamish?
Kia ora. Just to further add to that, we have expressed our desire to NZTA Wakakatahi for the gravel in the Ashburton Hakatiri River to be used for this project. They're aware of the benefits of doing so. And we did have a presentation just yesterday from representatives of Wakatahi who said they had reached out somewhere in your organisation. They have reached out to ECAN to begin conversations about how best to work together to maximise the win-win benefit of extraction for both the river and the build project. So at an informal level or an organisational level, that conversation has started. We just want to emphasise it through this strategy submission.
Thank you.
And I talked to Neil about that last night, and I've confirmed with Lee and her team that has already happened and is happening. We just need to make sure that there are no blockages in that system.
Kia ora,
We prefer to have the gravel come from the Ashburton River rather than for digging a hole in a gravel pit and making that hole bigger when the resource is sitting in the river and it needs to come out. We'd like to have a win-win all around, and NZTA, as Hamish said, are on board with that, and they've already touched base with people at ECAN already around it. So we're all on the same page, which is great.
Cool. Councillor Edge, Grant.
Thanks, Neil. Hamish. I just wanted to confirm all with you that you agree that this strategy has a strong science base to the places within the rivers that are suitable for extraction, rather than just extracting it for extraction's sake. Is that something that you agree with as well?
I 100% agree with it. The gravel needs to come out where it needs to come out. And we talk about the North Branch of the Hakatiri River, where it should come out from, and that's been identified by the Your River people as well. They know where it needs to come out. So it's just getting everyone on the same page and making it happen.
Good. And kind of just supplementary to that, part of the other big part of the strategy too is to ensure that the multiple values of our rivers from the mountains to the sea are also taken into account. And you mentioned the Breda River revival strategy. it's been around for quite some time, and it's mentioned in the Environment Canterbury's 30-year infrastructure plan that we're trying to, given history, climate change, all those things, that transitioning away from pure engineering to more nature-based solutions is sort of the way of the future, which not only delivers those multiple Braided River categories, but also focuses our attention on where the real need is. Is that something that you guys are familiar with, the concept of that, and a way forward of kind of looking at things in a broader context?
If I've heard the question right, moving away from engineering to let the river do what it likes, we wouldn't agree with that, or I certainly wouldn't. We could lose the town of Ashburton. It could be flooded if we just let the river go where the river wants to go. We're highly modified from what we were hundreds of years ago, and we're there, we're committed. We need to keep the river in where it needs to be, and keep the towns and the farmland, etc., safe as much as possible from flooding.
Yeah, just to clarify that, I don't think it just means doing some more lateral thinking about how you can, in a confined river system, more frequent flooding, higher intensity, more frequent, high level frequency events that are potentially damaging, and how can we respond to those? But obviously gravel extraction in the right places sort of helps with that. Thanks so much.
I think we talked about this previously. I think I've raised it with you before, Neil, the idea of the more strategic approach, which I think that's what this strategy is trying to implement, getting together and really looking at where can it come out of, where would you let the river have more room, and where does it need to be reinforced in terms of your flood protection. So, yeah, I think maybe that's what Councillor Edge was getting at, and I think that's what this process is trying to go forward with. So thank you. I understand what you've said about protecting the township, for sure.
Your river engineers have come across what needs to be done, and you as council have purchased some land near the area where it needs to come out as well. So, yeah, I think we're all on the same page.
Kia ora, Neil. Thank you. Any other questions from councillors? No, it doesn't look like it. Thank you, Neil and Hamish, for your time. Thanks for your submission, and enjoy the rest of your day. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thank you. I think that concludes the feedback sessions today on that. Very interesting sessions we've had. I think we'll finish with karakia, because I think that's the last session for us as councillors today, and I think I started off this morning, so happy to do that. So karakia whakakapi o tātou nei hui. Unuhia ki te urutapu nui a tāne, kia wātea, kia māma, tēnā koutou, te tinana, te wairua I te ara takatū, koe rai rongo, whakireaki ki runga ki a tīna, haumi e hui e, tāe ki e, kia ora.